The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Acing the SAT and ACT live webinar. Today our guidance counselor Brittany Malcolm has a really good informative webinar for us today. I just want to lay the ground rules down for if you have any sort of questions. If you do, you'll notice in the control panel, which is over here on the right side, you'll see there's a questions tab. If you have anything at all you'd like us to answer or elaborate more on, just chat through over to me. I'll do my best to answer it, and we'll get Brittany to answer it. It'll be a good time. But without any further ado, here's Brittany.
All right, thank you so much, Steve. I have a lot of great information for everybody today, so I hope to just dive right in. I'm going to talk for probably about 15-20 minutes or so. Then maybe we'll field some questions and then maybe finish up. I'm not sure how long exactly it'll take, but we'll just kind of breeze through this and see what we need to stop and answer. Okay. So first of all, what are the SAT and ACT? Everyone knows they're these big important tests with these acronyms that they don't really know what they mean. So, but the important thing to know about them is that they're very widely used college admissions tests. And what colleges do when they get your scores, they're really looking for your college readiness level. So these scores, or both of these tests have been around for a very, very long time. And they've been refined and changed throughout the years to better predict your success in college. So that's why they're so important. They really want to know, they want to get a good idea of what kind of student you are. And these tests, they only take a few hours, and they really can gauge your success in college pretty well. So they test what you know and how well you can apply the knowledge that you've gained throughout your life and most recently in high school. So who should take them? Believe it or not everybody should really take the SAT or ACT. They are costly tests. They are about $50 a piece, which isn't too bad, but it's not cheap. So if you don't need to take them, don't take them, basically. A lot of like technical schools or community colleges, they might have their own entrance tests that they require you to take. Therefore, you don't have to take the SAT or ACT. So I would do my research before signing up to take the SAT or ACT. Look into the colleges that you're interested in or the technical schools or whatever and see if they require the SAT or ACT. Because really, I mean, there's no need to put yourself through it if your school is not going to require it. I know there's a school near us here in Scranton that they have their own entrance test. I think it's called the AccuPlacer. So even if a student took the SAT, they really want them to take their own personalized entrance test to place them at the appropriate level in their classes and everything. So those kind of things you'd want to look into really before registering for the SAT and ACT. And actually, I'll just go ahead and show you real quick where you can find this information, because a lot of students maybe have no idea where to start when looking for, you know, what does the college look for. So I'm just going to show you guys really quickly one school. So this is Binghamton University. I think this is their homepage. Okay, so here's what you would see for this university's homepage. So what you would want to look for to search for this information about SATs, you would want to look for admission. So you would see that on pretty much, I can guarantee you, any college website, you're going to see admission or admissions or admission center or something like that. So you just click on admission, and then undergraduate admissions is what you would be interested in. Then you would look to, I believe apply would be the best place to start. So you would want to look as freshman because you'd be just starting. So they give you the steps, they lay it out for you, which is great, and most schools will do that. And over here, they tell you your deadlines, which most schools will do that too. So the Common Application is being used more and more frequently now. It's basically one application that you fill out, and that application goes to whatever schools you want it to go to. So it's really convenient, and it makes less work for you guys as the students. So you don't have to fill out 6 different applications for 6 different schools. You could just fill out the Common Application, select the schools you want it to go to, and boom, they have your information. Not all schools use it, so it's something to look into when you start this process of applying. So anyway, they tell you, apply through the Common Application, check your email for your user ID number, submit a transcript, and then request official test scores. So this is going to be one of your steps typically in the admissions process. So you're going to report your SAT or ACT scores. So there you go. You would know that this particular school does require you to take the SAT or ACT. So that's just a quick example to show you how you would go about looking for this information. So to jump back into it, when should I take them? This is probably the number 2 question about the SATs and ACTs, the number 1 being what exactly are they? So when should you take them? Typically, students will take these during their junior year and then again possibly their senior year. Usually, students will take the SAT or ACT twice, or maybe they'll just do the SAT once and then the ACT once and then see which one they prefer. Maybe they'll take one of them twice. You don't want to go crazy, and really I wouldn't recommend taking both of them twice because you might be spending a lot of money, and that's a lot to put yourself through taking all these tests. So, but anyhow, typically students will take them in their junior and senior year. Penn Foster students, it's a little bit different because we don't have the typical grade levels that you have in a brick and mortar school. So we would suggest taking them, about a year and a half before you're planning to go to college. So if you just started with us and, you're 14 or 15 and you're really not planning on finishing your coursework for another couple of years, I would probably hold off on taking them just because you want to make sure you're getting the majority of your core courses, which is going to be, your math and your science and your English, those kind of courses, so that you're prepared to take the SATs and ACTs. So what's the difference? That's another important thing to talk about. So other than them both being very widely used tests in the college admissions process, they both have their differences. And really any school that accepts, any school is going to really probably accept either one. If they look for the SAT or ACT, they're going to accept either one. They're not going to say, no, we only want the SAT or only the ACT. They accept both. So the differences with them, the scoring is pretty different. So with the SAT, the minimum possible score you can get is a 600 and the maximum is a 2400. So there's 3 different sections in the SAT. And with each of those sections, you can get a maximum of 800 points. So say you're perfect and you get 800 on math, 800 on reading, 800 on writing. That would add up to the perfect score via 2400. That's a phenomenal score. I don't even know if anyone actually gets a perfect score on them, but if you did, that would be the perfect score is a 2400. With the ACT, it's a little bit different. The scoring is done 1 through 36. And each different section, each different portion of the SAT or ACT has a different score rubric. So some sections, they score from 1 through 18, some score from 1 through 20, some I think maybe 1 through 24, and then 1 through 36. And the way that it works is each different subject area, you get a score, and then you get what they call a composite score, which is where that 1 through 36 comes in. They just kind of calculate it using your raw score, meaning, you know, the amount of questions you got right. So it's a little bit confusing with the ACT, but they break it down for you when you do your score report, so you should be able to understand it. Now, the guessing with the SAT, there is a penalty of 1/4 of a point if you get a question wrong. So you might want to think twice about really guessing on the SAT, whereas with the ACT, there's no penalty for anything that you get wrong. So, so with that one, you know, if you want to guess, you know, you can guess. But with the SAT, I would probably try and have it at least narrowed down to maybe two answers before going and taking a guess. And if you really can't narrow it down at all, you might want to just skip the question because there's no penalty for a skipped question with the SAT, but there is a penalty if you get it wrong. And then the last thing, really, the last main difference between them is the time limit. The SAT you're going to be testing for a little bit longer, the 3 hours and 45 minutes, and the ACT is going to be about 3 hours. Oh, I just skipped right over the sections. Sorry, backtrack a little bit. The sections on the SAT, I said briefly, they're math, reading, and writing, and those 3 portions are all mandatory. The ACT has math, English, reading, science, and an optional writing component. So it has 4 that you must take, and then it has a 5th component that is not mandatory. However, there is a little bit of a catch to that one. Some colleges will really want to see that writing sample from you. So I would highly recommend checking into the colleges or universities that you're interested in and seeing if they want you to have that writing piece, because then you could be kind of stuck in a hard situation if you take the ACT in October and then you go to apply for your school in February and you didn't do the writing and they're saying, well, we really need that writing sample. Then you have to go and take the whole thing all over again and pay for it all over again because you can't just take the writing on its own. So that's something to think about, something to just be aware of when you go to register for the test. So with all that being said, which one should you take? So like I said before, most colleges are going to, if they want the SAT, ACT, they're going to accept either one. I've never heard of a school that just wants the SAT or just wants the ACT. There could be one random one out there, so it doesn't hurt to check, but for the most part, it's going to be either one. So how do you go about determining which one is going to be the best and the most, you know, the best predictor of your success, and it's going to show you in the best light, I guess you would say. So what I would recommend is just taking a few practice tests, seeing how you do. They both, the SAT and the ACT, have free practice tests online on their website. So, I mean, it's a phenomenal thing for you to do. Go and take a practice test. See which one you're more comfortable with. The wording, you know, the way they word the questions is differently on the SAT and ACT. So you could find yourself being much more comfortable with the way that one test is worded and formatted and everything. So it definitely is something I would do before, you know, trying to figure out which test to register for. I'm going to talk about one last quick point, and then we're going to take questions, and then I'll continue on. So the PLAN and PSAT. So I'm not sure if this is something that anyone really has heard about. Probably the PSAT maybe more so than the PLAN. But these are both almost like they're practice tests for the SAT and ACT, but they're like official practice tests, if that makes any sense. So they're not just you logging into your computer and going to the website and taking a practice test. You actually have to register for them. You have to go to a school or a test site, you know, near you and actually take it like it's, you know, the actual SAT or the actual ACT. So this is a great predictor of how you're going to do. It kind of lets you see maybe where you need to work on something. And then the plus side of this is that these scores are not submitted to colleges. So, they're great for you to practice, for you to work on, for you to kind of get an awareness of where you stand. And it's not going to come back and, it's not going to come back and bite you, I guess, because it's your first attempt. So I'm going to, again, do a little bit of a demonstration and show you exactly where you can find information on the plan and the PSAT. So let's see. Bear with me one second. Okay, here we go. So the plan. So for this one, you would just do, it's just www.act.org/plan-student. So this tells you that you have to be a 10th grader, which, with us, like I said, we don't have grade levels. So if you're earlier in your high school program, this might be a good thing for you to take a look at. Really what you have to do is contact your local high school, your local district, because they are the only sites that will offer the ACT, the local high schools. And typically they offer them once or twice a year in October. So that's something you might want to look at, is contacting your local school to see if they offer the plan test. And since you students with Penn Foster are considered, homeschool students technically, they should be able to offer those tests to you. And they're much cheaper than the regular ACT. I believe the plan is probably about $15. I don't know exactly. I know the PSAT, which I'll go to that now, if I can find it. Let's see. Here we go. So the PSAT, which is going to be on College Board's website, which is the site where you register for the ACTs, which I'll get back to in a minute. I'm sorry, the SATs, this is the site you register them. It's collegeboard.org. If you just search for PSAT, it'll give you information about the test. And these are offered in October only. I believe it's October 18th and 20th. So this is something that you might want to check out very soon. Again, you would have to contact your local area high school and see if and when they're offering them. And these, I believe, are $14 for you to register for them. So with that, we'll take a little break and field some questions. Steve, do you have anything for me?
Yeah, there's a couple questions. When would be the best time for a student to take the SAT or ACT? Could you just cover that?
Sure. So like I said, with typical students that are in like a typical high school, usually they take them their junior and senior year. So with Penn Foster students, I would encourage you to wait until you have a good amount of your core classes completed, which your core classes are your English, your math, your science, your social studies. So I would wait until you're probably about at least halfway through the program, maybe a little bit further, or about maybe a year before you're planning on going to college. So it just depends on your timeline for yourself. Our students are very unique in their timelines, so it really just kind of depends on where you see yourself. So if I was going to plan on going to college next September, next fall, I would probably think about taking the SAT and ACT sometime very shortly so that I had time to maybe take it again if I wanted to, and time to meet my college deadline.
Okay, great. A lot of students are asking where can they register for the SAT, for the ACT, where is it around them?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I will get to that a little bit
Sure.
in the webinar. Yeah, I'll get to that shortly.
Okay, cool. Let me find you. A lot of the questions are similar, so I just want to try and get to everybody. So just bear with me one sec, because there's a whole bunch of them that came through at 5:19 exactly. Okay, can you take the SAT or ACT at any age?
That's a good question. As far as like if there's a cutoff for being too young to take them. I've had students take the SAT that are like only 14, 15. I wouldn't recommend that if you have the coursework to back you up, like if you have the high school experience. I mean, some students are very advanced and they, take algebra when they're in middle school, 7th grade, and they're already taking trigonometry their freshman year. Those are those kind of students that have, advanced skills. They can take them early. But, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that, like I said, for if you haven't had the academic experience to back you up.
Okay, and a lot of students are asking about practice. How can they practice? How can they register for the PSAT? What sort of books should they study from?
Okay, so that is another great question. We have practice tests actually at Penn Foster that I can mail to anybody that wants one. I have probably like 100 of each of them, so I'm more than happy to send them out to you. But the other thing is you can take them online, and it's kind of nice because online, I'll just go to their website really quick. Online you can take the practice test. See how it says right here, free practice test? It's a full-length SAT, and it'll tell you at the end, it'll give you kind of like a little report of your score, and it'll tell you maybe what areas you had weaknesses in. So did you have a difficult time in interpreting different reading passages? So that's a great tool because it gives you the feedback like immediately. So I can, by all means, I can mail anybody that wants a paper test of either one. But the practice test online is, something that's great for you because you get feedback immediately, and it tells you where you stand. So with the paper test, it's helpful, but you don't really get feedback because you're just taking it yourself. You know what I mean? So if anybody does, that's a good point. If anybody does want the SAT or ACT practice test mailed to them, just send me a message on the community. I assume everybody, knows who I am on the community, Brittany Malcolm. Just search me in the little search box and just send me a message, and I'll be happy to send you one. So that's always an option too.
Hey Brittany, do you know anything about the official SAT practice guide? I think that is from the College Board.
Personally, I don't know many students that have used it.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a great resource. But with there being so much out there online that you can use to help, like boost your score up, I don't know if it's, I mean, $32, it's not too terribly expensive. So if you have the money to spend that amount of money on a practice guide, by all means. But there's a lot out there online. So
are the questions in that? Do you know? I don't even know if there's any way to validate this. Are they the exact questions that are in the SAT? I don't believe they are.
No, yeah, no, they wouldn't put they would put similar ones, you know what I mean? And even the practice test online, you're not going to see those questions on the SAT. Granted, it is good to be familiar with how they word questions so that it's not the first time you're seeing it when you go to actually take the SAT, you know what I mean? So it's a good thing to get a feel for the way that the questions are worded and laid out on the test. But they're definitely not going to be the same questions, no.
And you could take both tests over as many times as you register for them too, can't you?
Yes, you can take them as many times as you want, really. But I would some colleges are really only going to, now this is another thing, it depends on the school. Some colleges might only look at your first score, or they might only look at your first 2 scores, and then after that they might say, at that point you get good at taking a test. You don't really, it's not as much of showing your initial college readiness, it's showing how well you can take this particular test. So usually I would say don't take it more than twice. I do know students that have taken it 3 times, so I don't want to say that nobody does it, but it's just one of those things you might want to check with your potential college and see what they look for. another thing too, in relation to what colleges look at, some colleges will take your best combined score, which means they will take the best score from, so say you take the SAT twice. They'll take your best math score. They'll look at both exams that you took. They'll take your best math score. So say you got a 700 and a 600. They'll take that 700, and then they'll look at your reading, and they'll see you got a 500 and a 600. They'll take the highest one. They'll take the 600. And then they'll look at your writing, and they'll say, okay, she got a 400 and a 600. They'll take the 600. So they'll go through and pick out and look at only those, like that combined score of your highest combined score. And some colleges will only want to see your, your highest one-time test as a whole. So if you took it and you got a 1800 and then you took it again and you got a 1900, they're not going to sit through and look through and see what you got on each category and try and get you the highest score. They just want that one-time shot of 1800 total or whatever. Does that make sense? I hope. Anything else I can help with right now, Steve?
There's a ton of questions. I'll do my best to field them. To any question that we don't get to, I will put up tomorrow in a blog post on the community, along with the recording of the video and Brittany's slides too. So sorry if we don't get to all of you, but we'll do our best here.
All right, well, I'll jump right back into the webinar, and then we'll take some more questions at the end. So does that sound okay, Steve?
Yeah, it's good with me.
Okay, cool. Okay. How do I register? So this was one of the questions that I was going to get to. So for SATs, you can go to www.sat.collegeboard.org. And then for the ACT, it's just www.actstudent.org. So when are the deadlines? When do I need to make sure that I register? Typically, the deadlines are about a month before the test. So throughout the year, the SAT is offered a handful of times. I want to say about 8 times a year. And I think the same goes for the ACT, about 7 or 8 times a year. So you do have several opportunities in a year to take it. So if you miss one, it's not the end of the world. You can take the next one. So like right now, the next one is probably in the beginning of October. So I believe the deadline is probably passed for that one because it's a month before. The ACT, it's about 35 days before the test. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're planning to take the test. Make sure you register, go on a month or 2 before, and get everything squared away so you don't have to worry about paying a late fee, because there is a pretty hefty late fee if you decide to register for a test late. With the SAT, the cost is $51. And then with the ACT, there's 2 potential costs, either $36.50 for the ACT without the writing. So that would be your it would have your 4 sections in it and no writing. And the $52.50, which is the ACT with writing, is going to have all 5 sections, and it's going to include that writing piece. So it's nice that it's a little bit cheaper for you, but like I said, just beware of some colleges really wanting that writing sample, and then if you don't have it, they might, want you to take it again, and that will cost you, obviously, again, you'd have to pay that full price because you can't take just the written portion of the ACT. And registration for both of them, like I said, it's done online at their website. That's the only way you can do it anymore, I want to say. They might make some like some cases where you can do them via like mailing in an application, but I would just recommend doing it online if you have that access, which obviously if you're listening to this webinar, you do. So I'll just show you really quickly. Okay, so this is the SAT website, just sat.collegeboard.org, and register is where you would go to register. Makes sense, huh? So when to take the test, they talk about some different things that I talk about. I've talked about payments and everything like that. So see how this next test is October 5th. The deadline was the 6th. So this one is already passed. You could still register late, but like I said, there's a pretty hefty late registration fee. I want to say it's like an additional $50. So you'd be paying $100 to take the test. And then you can register for the November 2nd one up until October 3rd. So if you go to register now, you have to sign in. It's free to create an account here, so that's nothing to worry about. And then as you register, it does take a little while, so set aside 20 minutes or half hour for yourself to register because they want to know all about your college plans and your high school background. So make sure you do set aside some time. And forget where I was going with this one. But yeah, so that would be for the SAT. Oh, the test site is another thing to consider. And I think Steve said that some people were asking where to take it. So you put in your zip code, and they will let you know what test centers are near you. So like for us here in Scranton, if we put 18515, it would pop up and say, okay, for the next test date, November 3rd or whatever it was, you have 4 test sites near you that you could take the test. And then you just click on whatever school you wanted to go to, because it is done at a public school. So you would just click on whatever school you wanted to go to, and then you'd register there. Couple things to keep in mind when you're registering, and the ACT is pretty similar, so I'm not going to go through it twice, but they want a photo ID, so you have to make sure that you have your photo ID with you. It's very important, because if you don't have it, you won't be able to take the test, and that would be such a bummer for you to waste $50 or whatever on a test that you didn't even get to take. So make sure that you have your ID when you go with you. It's very important, and your test ticket. So once you register, you'll get, it'll direct you to where to print out your test ticket, and you want to make sure you take that with you when you go to take the day of your test. As you're registering as well, they want a photo of you, so they will just request that you upload a photo of you from like your shoulders up. So they want like a face shot basically, so that they can verify on the day of the test, okay, this is John Smith. This is a photo we have of him when he registered online, and this is John Smith's driver's license. Okay, that's him. He's good to go. So those are a couple of things for you to know about as you're registering and going to take the test on the day of. Alrighty. So right back into it. How do I prepare? So we talked a little bit about this when we were fielding some questions. There are practice tests online. Like I said, there's a full free practice test on the SAT and the ACT's website. So that is a phenomenal thing for you to check out. The question of the day is something I would highly, highly, highly recommend everybody checking out. If you follow the SAT and ACT on Twitter, they post their question of the day every day, so you don't even have to go searching for it. It's just going to come up on your Twitter feed. So that's something I would highly recommend you doing. If you don't have Twitter and you don't want to deal with that, you can just go to their websites. I keep going back and forth, but I'll show you, since I seem to skip the ACT a lot, I'll show you on their website where it is, if I could find it. Let's see. Test prep, I believe it'll be in. So there you go. Question of the day is in their test preparation section. So here it goes, English question for today. And it gives you the English question, and then it gives you your options down the bottom. And I think, yeah, you can click on it, and it'll tell you, oh, that was a total guess. I got it correct. So yeah, it'll tell you if you got it correct, and why that was correct. And the SAT has the same one too. It's just going to be under practice and official question of the day, and then there it is. And they'll rotate them, like one day it'll be math, one day it'll be reading, and one day it'll be writing, whatever. So that's definitely a good thing for you to keep your eye on. A few other things, we talked about the study guide for purchase. The ACT has study guides as well. So if that's something that you have the money for and you think might benefit you, then by all means take advantage of it. And there's tons and tons and tons of other websites, really. I listed just a couple of them here, number2.com, sparknotes.com, majortests.com, vocabulary.com. So there's a ton out there, really. These are some of the best ones that I found. I'm sure there's many, many other ones out there. So if you just do like a simple Google search of, SAT prep or ACT prep or practice, whatever, you come up with a ton of different resources for yourself. Okay, so this is another really important one to talk about. What score do I need to achieve? So with every college and university, they might have a specific cutoff of what they look for. Some schools might not. They might not have a certain cutoff. They might accept pretty much anybody, which is fine, but there are some schools that they do have a certain cutoff. So, it just depends on your situation, but it's always good for you to look into and see if your school has a cutoff. And then most universities will indicate their median SAT or ACT range. I don't know, sometimes you might have a hard time finding out if a school has a cutoff, but if you talk to an admissions counselor at a school, they would probably give you an idea of what you need to achieve. They typically won't plaster that right on their website, so what they will show you instead is the median. So I'm going to show you again. I'm going to go to the College Board website and show you how to find that information. Okay, so collegeboard.org, that's the same website you go to actually register for the SAT, but they have a lot of other things on the College Board, a lot of college preparation type things. So for this, you would just go to collegeboard.org and then go to College Search. And I would recommend everybody doing this because it's a great way to search for schools. So type of school, so maybe I'll put in four-year university, public, and that's all I'm going to put in is four-year and public, and close and see results. So it's going to come up with a ton of different results for you. You can sort them. I mean, you could put a lot more information in here, like location, majors, sports, cost, all that stuff. So, all right, for right now, I'm just going to show you, like, Alabama State University. Okay, so then you click on the school, and it gives you this really great snapshot of the school. It tells you about their majors, their campus life, all that good stuff that you'd want to know before, committing to a school. So then to find the median SAT and ACT scores, you'd want to go into applying. And it tells you about their total applicants, how many are admitted, how many actually enroll. So, and then it tells you if they're somewhat selective, not selective, highly selective, and so on. Then this is your information that you want to know about before you apply. You want to make sure you have this all lined up. So right there is SAT and ACT scores. So they give you this information right out of the get-go. And 380 to 480 is their median test scores, which if you don't know what median means, it means their middle 50%. So 380 to 480 is the middle 50% of students they admit to the college. There is a 25% chunk of students that are below that range, so less than a 380, and then there's 25% chunk of students that are above a 480. So the 380 to 480 is your middle 50%. There's 25% below, 25% above. And then if you scroll down, it should tell you, okay, so it breaks it down into percentage of freshmen in each range, which is another thing for you to look at. And if you keep scrolling down, it'll take you to your ACT scores and where the median is for that. So 16 to 19 is their mid 50%. And then I guess it breaks it down here for you too with the English and the math, and you can even enter your score and see where you stand. So lots of great stuff on College Board's website. So I would really recommend for you to check out their site and prepare yourself on there. Okay. So we're just wrapping up here. I don't want you to think I'm going to talk forever. Should be done kind of soon. So what to expect and bring on the day of the test. Okay, so calculator. This is something you want to make sure you have because it's going to definitely save you a lot of time. I know you don't want to sit there and like do long division, so you do want to make sure that you have that. You cannot have for certain for the SAT and ACT, they both have their own guidelines. So you want to make sure you check out their calculator guidelines before the test and make sure that the calculator you have is acceptable. ACT's requirements and allowances for the calculators, they're a little bit more strict with what they'll accept. They actually outline, like if you have a Texas Instrument website or calculator or a Casio calculator or whatever, there's different model numbers. And the ACT website will actually tell you the model numbers that are not acceptable. So they go through and it's a pretty long list. It tells you exactly which ones are not acceptable. The basic scientific and most graphing calculators are allowed. So again, I would just check out their policy before you actually get to the test, and then you find out, oh my gosh, I can't use this calculator. That would be not pleasant. So that's about the calculators. The next thing, I talked about this already, is your photo identification so that it matches up to who you registered as. Your admission ticket. A snack is recommended because you're there for like I said, about 3 to 4 hours for the longer one. And you probably want a snack, maybe a drink. You could have that on your break. And then the other thing is to consider wearing a watch. So this is a lot of things. I don't even know. I mean, I probably have maybe one functioning watch. But a lot of people don't really wear watches anymore because they just look at their phone when it's, when they want to know what time it is. But with this, you cannot have your phone out at all. And I don't even think you can bring it with you. I'd probably just leave it in my car or leave it at home when going to the test, because that you don't want to get kicked out for having your phone ring in the middle of it. That would be terrible. So I'd wear a watch so you can keep an eye on the time. That way when they start the test and they say you have 40 minutes for the math section, you could keep an eye on it for yourself and you know where you stand. So I think that's all I have. I'm sure we have lots of questions. I could hear Steve feverishly typing away.
Yeah, sorry.
No, hey, that's okay.
Yeah, there are a ton of questions, and the bulk of them are where can they register, and I'm doing my best to, every time I see that, send it to everybody, but the URL is sat.collegeboard.org for the SAT, and the ACT is actstudent.org. So head over to those two if you're looking to register and see where you could take these tests located near you. So that's a good portion of the questions that are still out there, but there are a couple other really, really good ones in here for you, Brittany.
Okay, great.
One that's coming up a couple times is about photo IDs. Do they need to be a license? Do you know, could you give them a little bit more info about that?
They don't have to be a license. If you're not licensed, you don't have to, go out and get your license, but it does have to be some kind of official identification. So it has to be something that is state or government issued. So if you aren't old enough to drive or you're not interested in getting your license, you can go to your local DMV and you can get a state-issued identification ID. I think they're like maybe $10 or $15, nothing too terribly expensive. I think they should tell you, let's see if I can find anything on the website about it. Here we go, ID requirements. Now this is for the SAT, so you might want to double check the ACT and see if it's different. So it must be issued by a government organization or the school which you currently attend. So if you do have, I don't think at this time we currently have school IDs. That might be a little bit difficult because we're online education. but it must be an original document, nothing photocopied, be valid and current. So yeah, if you have a passport or a state driver's license, state ID, those kinds of things.
Okay, some students are asking, and some of the questions are kind of specific, but here I'm paraphrasing most of them. What happens if they already have college credits? Should they worry about taking the SAT or the ACT for that matter?
That's a good question. It's gonna, again, depend on the college. I know this is kind of like a runaround way of answering it, but it's gonna depend on the school. They might say if you have, and there might be a cutoff of like the amount of credits they want to see that you have. Like if you have maybe 15 college credits, they might say that you don't need to worry about it. But if you only have maybe 3 or 6, they might tell you you definitely need to take it. So again, it's something that you want to check with the college that you're considering or the various universities that you're considering.
Okay, I just want to reiterate, if we don't get to your question, the answer will be typed up in a blog post tomorrow. A lot of the questions are the same though, so I feel like we are covering them though, and we will cover them again tomorrow in a blog post in the high school section of community.pennfoster.edu. All right, there is a good question here. I just skimmed over it.
Sure.
Do you need, or maybe I should reword it, do you recommend a certain GPA for that someone should have before they take either of these exams?
No, I don't think so. I mean, really, this tests any range of abilities. So, I wouldn't say you have a certain GPA. Like I said, the important thing is to have the academic content to back you up. So if you have enough if you have enough high school work to make sure that you'd be successful on the test, then you could take them. I don't think that there's any requirement as far as GPA. I would just be mindful of having the academic work to back you up. That's a good question, though.
Okay, and we do have a couple Penn Foster College students already enrolled in Penn Foster College. They're asking, should they think about taking the SAT or ACT also? Would you be able to speak to that?
Sure. So the answer to that is if you are staying with Penn Foster College, if you're planning to just stick with us and finish out college with us and get your associates or bachelor's with us, we don't require the SAT or ACT since we have our own entrance test. So if you're sticking with us and you plan on graduating with us and earning your degree, there's really no need for you to take them. If you are considering maybe transferring to a local university or college near you, that's going to be something you want to check with them about. Again, that might be something that if you have a certain amount of college credits, maybe they're going to tell you you're okay, we don't need that information on you. So it's going to depend on what your plans are for your future.
Okay, there are a bunch of similar questions, so I'm trying to find the ones that are different. How do they find out their score?
Okay, so your score will come to you, I believe, via the mail. I want to say they still mail out the test scores. And I think they come to you probably about a month after the fact. Let me see if I can find any information about that while we're still live here.
Sure.
Score availability. Okay, so test date October 5th, available to students October 24th. So yeah, a little less than a month, about 3 weeks they will be available for you. So it looks like you can actually find them online, which is which is great. They probably will email you at the email address that you registered and let you know that your tests are available, and then you can, sign into your College Board account or your ACT student account and let you know. Let's see if the ACT website tells you, if it gives you most scores are available for online viewing within 2.5 weeks after the test date. So there again, it's about the same amount of time for the ACT, and it's available online.
Would you be able to, I know it's kind of a hard question, but say what is a good score for the SAT? What is average? Do you have any information like that?
Not really.
That's all right.
Because every college is really looking at different things for admission. I know that's something that everybody wants to know, and I know that's something I'd want to know if I were taking the test myself. So the best thing I would say to answer that question is do that research, like I showed you on College Board's website, and find out what their median test score is for the colleges that you're interested in. It's really hard for me to say, what the average score would be.
Okay, and there's still a couple more questions about the ID. If you don't have ID, where can you go to get ID? I could tell you in Pennsylvania you would go to the DMV.
Right. Yeah, that's what I would suggest. I'd assume that in any state that you live in, you can get, I know you can get a state-issued ID, even if it's not necessarily a driver's license. Let's see, I'm trying to look quickly and see if I can find any more information for you about that. Yeah, again, it's not saying a whole lot about, what kind of, or where you can go to get the ID, but it does have to be a state-issued or government-issued identification.
All right, once again, it's sat.collegeboard.org for SAT, and ACT is actstudent.org. A lot of questions asking for the URL. But like I said, we'll have all this information up tomorrow on the community in the high school space.
Yeah, we'll definitely do our best to get them out for you guys as soon as possible tomorrow morning. Probably by like noon, I would say, right, Steve? Like, we usually get to them pretty quickly.
Yeah, the only difference about this particular webinar is you guys asked a ton of questions, so I want to make sure we get to all of them. So I do apologize if we didn't answer your question yet. What is, if you had to guess, or maybe even know the answer, what is the most heavily weighted part of the SAT?
Heavily rated?
I think the question they're asking is what part is the most important?
I think they're really going to look at all your scores, all of your different subject areas. With that, too, it might be important for you to think about what major you're considering. So if you're going into, say you want to get into the nursing field, and you take the ACT, which has the science portion on it, the SAT does not have the science portion. So if you take the ACT and you're, like I said, considering pursuing like a medical profession, they would probably look at your science and math scores pretty highly versus your writing and reading and English scores. Granted, they're still going to look at those because obviously written communication and verbal communication is important for you no matter what field you go into, but they might look at the math and science with a little more scrutiny if you're going into the medical fields. And the opposite could be true. Maybe if you're going into the English field or journalism or something like that, they might be looking more at your language abilities than your math or science.
Okay, a lot of you are asking, can you use your Penn Foster student ID? Unfortunately, it would need to be an ID, an official ID with your photograph. Here's one for you, Brittany. What if they are traveling? Is it essential that they take it in a geographic region that's located near them?
Well, I mean, I'm not totally sure what that question is looking for, but I think probably what the student means is if they live in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be maybe in, I don't know, Sacramento, California for a couple of months, do they need to take it where their home address is? No, they can take it, wherever they are, as long as, it's obviously on the website as a test center. I don't think it matters where you take it, wherever's convenient. I know I actually had an international student whose family was in, I think, Egypt. They were a military family, and they were in Egypt, and there are actually international locations for the SAT. I'm not sure about the ACT. I would assume there would be, but there's many, many, many locations that you could take these tests. So wherever is convenient for you is what I would say.
Okay, there's a lot of questions that are asking for specific things about schools, and I just want to make a comment that every college is different in what it can accept and in what it requires. So if you're wondering, is a college that you have in mind one that requires you to take the SAT or ACT, I would say to reach out to them or check their website.
Yeah, that's definitely your best bet, to go right to the source and see what that college or university is looking for.
Here's a general...
Do one more or two more?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm trying to find the ones that are similar. With the ACT and it having a different price if you include the writing portion, how important is that writing piece?
Again, it's going to depend on the school. I know we seem to be dancing around a lot of these questions, but it really is going to depend on the school and if they want to see that writing piece. Some schools will have their own writing, like their own essay that they want you to write, so they might not care if you don't have that written piece, if you don't have that written piece of the ACT or the SAT. But I would just really check with the school and see what they want from you in the way of your scores. But again, with most schools are going through the common application now, which on the common application there is a writing piece, so that might be enough for some schools. It may not be enough for others. So it's really up to you to do the research on that end.
Okay, one last question for you. Let's say your grades aren't that great. Is the ACT or SAT a way to make yourself more attractive to a prospective college?
I think so, yes. I think that colleges look at a variety of different aspects when they review their applicants. So I think that, you want to be the strongest applicant you can be, of course. And I think that they do take in several considerations. I think they're going to look at your GPA and your high school curriculum, so what you took in high school. I think they're going to look at your ACT or SAT scores. For the most part, like I said, some schools might not look at that. I think they're going to look at other things such as maybe your work experience or volunteer activities. If you have any extracurriculars, you know, if you play with any sports leagues or if you're on any organizations within your community, they might look at that as well. They might also look at your goals, and some colleges will want to know like what made you pursue a certain field or major. And they may look at that. They may highly consider that as well. So I think there's a lot of different things that colleges look at when they are looking over their applicants. And I think that maybe if your GPA is not the hottest and you get a pretty solid score on your SAT or ACT, I think that might be a positive for you. That might be a positive quality for you as far as your application status goes. So do we have any other pressing questions, or maybe we can just try and get everything down so we can field them all in the community?
That's what we're going to do. Anyone that we did not answer, we will answer tomorrow on the community. We'll include the video of the webinar, which answered a lot of the similar questions that you guys asked too. And we'll include Brittany's slides, and thank you all for attending today. And thank you, Brittany, for presenting.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Steve, for your help, and thanks everybody for attending. And just one last note, if you do want a practice SAT or ACT, just like I said, drop me a quick line on the community, and I'll get those out for you guys without a problem. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.